Well, world, established rich coming right back at you. And we got to get straight into it because this Odell Beckham Jr. situation has exposed stuff about money, family, and how quick people judge a man without hearing the whole sentence. The internet heard one line. 100 million ain't really a lot. And they stopped listening right there. But the truth is, Odell wasn't talking about flexing. He was talking about survival. Not financial survival, emotional survival, family survival. The pressure that comes from being the only person in your family that has to save everybody. See, people heard the number, but they ain't hear the burden. They heard 100 million. They didn't hear everybody I love depends on me. They heard that's enough to last forever. They didn't hear I got 5 years to earn what most folks expect me to make last for the next 40. Odell wasn't talking about being rich. He was talking about how fast rich gets eaten alive when you feeding the whole community off one check. And let's be very clear. A lot of y'all would be broke too if 10 people's lives were attached to your direct deposit. Agents take a cut, taxes take a cut, trainers take a cut, teams take a cut, and then your family takes what's left. Not because they evil, but because you taught them that you would always come through. And that's the heart of this story. Generous men get eaten first.
I always explain this to people, like, bro, you give somebody a 5-year, $100 million contract, right? What is it really? It's 5 years for 60. You're getting taxed. That's 12 a year, that you have to spend, use, save, invest, flaunt, like whatever, however, just being real. I'm gonna buy a car, I'm gonna give my mama a house, I'm gonna do, everything costs money. If you spending $4 million a year, that's really 40 million over 5 years, 8 a year. That's a 5-year span of where you're getting 8 million. Can you make that last forever? And you always hear the people who ain't us and ain't been in the position, like, oh, well, that would last a lifetime. We weren't taught about no financial literacy and all the way. We weren't
talk about it all the time.
We weren't taught this skill.
Nobody talks about that part. Everybody loves to yell, if I had that money, I'd be straight. But what they don't say out loud is, you would also get used, you would also get drained, and you wouldn't even notice because generous people never see it coming. That's what Odell was really describing. Not poverty, but pressure. The pressure of feeling responsible for people who can't stand on their own 2 feet. The pressure of trying to give everybody a boost and realizing you're the only one who has to land on their feet when the money runs out. You think you helping, but all you doing is turning yourself into a safety net for people who stop trying. Look at the history. Allen Iverson, 200 million, gone. Antoine Walker, 110 million, gone. Warren Sapp, 58 million, gone. All of them talented, all of them hardworking, and all of them generous to a fault. And that word fault is what nobody wants to discuss. Sometimes the problem ain't how you spend, it's who you spend it on. You can budget your own life, you can't budget somebody else's expectations. Some people don't just want help, they want provisions forever. And once you become the provider, you stop being a person. You become a resource, a bank, a fix, a plan B. And when you become a bank to people, they never imagine you can run out. That's what Odell was getting at. Not I'm broke, not I'm mad, not 100 million is not enough for me. He was saying I can't take care of everybody forever because a lot of men in his position don't go broke from cars. They don't go broke from mansions and they don't go broke from jewelry. They go broke from trying to be Superman to everybody except themselves. And if you never been the one everybody calls when the rent is due, when the lights about to be cut off, when somebody done got locked up, then you can't judge what the pressure feels like. This is not a money story. This is a weight story. See, most people operate with a me economy. Odell and athletes like him operate in a we economy. The average person makes money to take care of themselves. A professional athlete makes money to take care of the ecosystem. And that fast, 60 million stops being rich and starts being responsibility. Because here's what people don't understand. The moment you make that kind of money, everybody you love stops looking at your success and starts looking at their opportunity. Can I get a down payment? Can you cover this month? Can you help with my business? Can you pay my debt? Can you buy me a car? Can you fix my mistakes? And it never feels like using. It feels like love. Because the people who drain you the most are never the strangers. It's always the people with a key to your house, a seat at your table, and a story about, remember when I helped you. And generous men are the easiest men to bleed dry. They give without watching. They help without questioning. They sacrifice without pausing. So when Odell talks about money running out, he's not talking about cars and chains. He's talking about love turning into financial obligation. He's talking about being a lifeline to people who won't learn to swim. And at first, you think you're doing something beautiful. You think you breaking generational curses. You think you giving people a chance they never had. But what you really doing, if you're not careful, is creating new dependencies under old curses. Because here's the truth. If you give somebody everything, they never learn anything. And Odell is not the first to wake up to this reality. Look at Allen Iverson, 200 million, gone. Antoine Walker, 110 million, gone. Warren Sapp, 58 million, gone. The common thread, not the spending, the extending themselves to everybody in need, everybody with an emergency, every family member who never learned to stand without them. And let's be honest, black families know this pressure more than anybody. When one person makes it, everybody makes it. When one person gets out, everybody assumes they get to come with you. And generosity feels right until you wake up broke and realize you saved everybody but yourself. This is what Odell was addressing. Not a lack of gratitude, not a lack of humility, but a lack of reality in how people perceive money they've never actually held. Because money sounds infinite to people who've never seen the bottom of a well. 100 million is not a lot when you funding 10 lives, 5 dreams, 3 rescues, 2 bad decisions, and 1 entire family tree. You cannot stretch a number into a lifetime when everybody around you treats you like a safety net with no weight limit. And here's the most important part. A lot of men like Odell are not spenders, they're saviors. And saviors go broke before they go selfish because they would rather hurt themselves than watch somebody they love struggle. That is not financial illiteracy, that is emotional illiteracy. And it's just as dangerous. You cannot save people who refuse to save themselves. And you cannot build wealth while also being the emergency plan for everybody who refuses to build for themselves. This is why Odell's comment was misunderstood in my opinion. He was not saying, I'm not rich enough. He was saying, you don't know how fast money disappears when you love people who've never learned to let you say no. See, everybody talks about money, but nobody talks about the weight that comes from being the one who made it, the one who escaped, the one who can provide, the one who owes everybody. And that word right there, owes, is the most dangerous word in the life of a successful black man. Because people don't ask you for help. They feel entitled to it. They say things like, you got it. It's nothing to you. You family. You supposed to look out. And before you know it, you are no longer a person. You are a position. You the financial aid office, the loan department, the emergency fund, and the retirement plan. And here's the cold part. The more you give, the less people see you sacrifice. Because generosity never looks like struggle to the people benefiting from it. They only see the yes. They never see the cost. This is why Odell's words hit a different type of nerve. Because he wasn't just doing the math. He was doing trauma calculations. The trauma of being needed more than you expected. The trauma of being used while you being praised. The trauma of being depended on by people who won't build anything of their own. This is what most people don't know. Being the breadwinner creates isolation. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone because nobody around you shares your risk. They share your benefits. Them losing a job ain't the same as you losing a job. Them going broke ain't the same as you going broke. When you fall, everybody falls. And that type of pressure can eat a man alive. Now, let's talk about the cultural side of this. In black families, the first one to make it is expected to pull everybody else up. That is a beautiful ideal until you realize most people don't want to be pulled up. They want to be carried. And carrying somebody is very different than helping them climb. Carrying them means you doing all the work. You absorb all the pressure. And they still get to complain if you put them down. This is why athletes go broke faster than anybody else with money. They don't want to disappoint their people. They don't want to say no. They don't want to outgrow the folks they grew up with. So they give and give and give till giving becomes the very thing that destroys them. You think I'm lying? Look at the data. 80% of NFL players are broke or in financial stress within 3 to 5 years of retiring. 60% of NBA players are broke within 5 years of leaving the league. That's not a math problem. That's a love problem, a pressure problem. They won't let me say no problem. And Odell wasn't just talking about himself. He was talking about every superstar who can't sleep at night because somebody they love needs something again. And they can't tell the truth. I can help you, but I can't save you. Now, let's shift to another part of this. Because the internet loves to drag athletes for how they spend their money. But they never talk about how short their careers really are. The average NFL career is 3 years. The average NBA career is 4 years. You get 5 good years to earn money. The world expects you to make it last 50. Meanwhile, regular folks get 40 years to build a savings and retirement. Athletes get 5 years to build a lifetime. And that's before we even talk about tax, agents, team fees, therapists, trainers, lawyers, accountants, body maintenance, and everybody else's lifestyle you expected to maintain. So when Shannon Sharp said, if you can't make 60 million last, you the problem, he was not wrong. But he was talking about a different kind of man. A man who can say no. A man who don't feel responsible for everybody else's life. A man who separates love from financial obligation. Odell is not that man. He loves hard, he gives fast, and he doesn't always see who's draining him until the well gets low. Listen, everybody think money changes you, but the truth is, money changes the people around you way before it changes you. They start looking at you different. They start expecting things from you. They start building their future with your money in their head. And when people do that, they stop seeing you as family and start seeing you as a resource. This is where Odell's situation becomes deeper than a podcast clip. He wasn't just talking about spending. He was talking about surviving the pull, surviving the pressure, surviving the expectation that everybody else's life is now his responsibility. That kind of pressure creates a disorder. Yes, a disorder. The disorder of overgenerosity, the disorder of self-sacrifice, the disorder of loving people who take more than they give. There are men out there who can't say no because they equate no with betrayal. So they say yes until their bank account looks like no. This is where athletes get stuck. When you come from nothing and you finally get something, you feel guilty for holding on to it. You feel obligated to share it with everybody who watched you grow. But here's the dark side. The more you share, the more people expect. The more you give, the less people value it. And the more people depend on you, the less they depend on themselves. This is how millionaires go broke emotionally before they ever go broke financially. The emotional bankruptcy is what destroys them first. Because when you are the one, there is no space to fail, no space to rest, no space to be human. Everybody needs you and nobody supports you. You are surrounded by people, but alone with the pressure. Now let's touch on the point most people missed. Odell never said 100 million ain't a lot of money. He said it's not as much as you think when you have to take care of everybody you love. That is a completely different conversation. People heard not a lot. They didn't hear the context, the family, or the burden. When you're responsible for 5, 10, 15 lives, money gets small quick because you're not just living for you, you living for the people who won't fix their own lives. Now, let's compare that to what Shannon Sharp said, because both men are right. They just speaking from two different worlds. Shannon is talking like a man who already learned how to say no. Odell is talking like a man who still can't. Those are two different languages, two different traumas, two different financial futures. Now let's get even deeper. There are men who feel like they must prove their love with their money. There are families who feel entitled to love through money. Put those two together and you have a man destined for financial collapse. A man who can bench press 400 pounds but can't lift the word no. A man who survived defenders but can't survive his own family. A man who can handle pressure on the field but no pressure at home. This is the part that connects to our culture. Black men are raised to be protectors, providers, saviors. We are not taught how to set boundaries. We are taught that sacrifice is love. So when you finally get money, power, or status, you don't just feel responsible, you feel chosen. You feel like God put you here to feed everybody. But you were not chosen to be a human ATM. You were not chosen to carry generations on your back while nobody learns how to walk. And this is where the story of Odell becomes a warning for every black man who make it out. If you don't set boundaries early, you will pay for love with your life. Not just your money, your sanity, your peace, and your future. You will wake up one day surrounded by people you love and realize you built a world where nobody loves you enough to let you rest. Now, let's talk about something that most people want to avoid. Being generous is beautiful, but uncontrolled generosity is self-destruction. The blessing is not the money. The blessing is the wisdom to manage the money. The blessing is not how many people you save. The blessing is how many people you teach to save themselves. And until you learn that, no amount of money will ever be enough. Listen, the real issue was never the number. The real issue was the nerve that it hit. Because when you say $100 million ain't a lot of money, people stop hearing you. But here's the part nobody wants to admit. People don't hear context when they hurt. They hear insults, even when none was intended. The truth is simple. Poverty and wealth are two different languages, and most of this argument is just bad translation. Odell was speaking from responsibility, from family pressure, from being a provider that everybody expects to show up when somebody falls short. The public was listening from rent, from gas prices, from babysitter costs, from credit card statements. These two frequencies don't match, and that's why this discussion blew up. But let's get to the heart of it. The thing everybody was too busy arguing to see. Generosity is a gift until it becomes a burden. And it becomes a burden when you're surrounded by people who think your success is community property. Odell wasn't just talking about taxes or agents or trainers or houses or cars. He was talking about expectation. The silent hand that reaches out every time you get paid. The guilt you feel when you say no. The pain you feel when you say yes. Let me put it this way. Everyone loves you when you become the ATM, but nobody loves you when you become the receipt. That's what Odell was really saying. Not that he's broke, not that 100 million ain't money, but that pressure don't care how many zeros you have. When you feel responsible for everybody, you stop feeling responsible for yourself. And here's the dog part. The part most people living check to check will never see till they hear the blessing they're not ready for. Generosity can blind you to your own self-destruction. Some people are so loving, so giving, so loyal, they can't see they being drained until they standing in an empty room with a full history of everybody they saved and nobody left to save them. We seen it with Iverson, we seen it with Walker, we seen it with Sapp, we seen it with countless others who didn't want their story to end like that. But let me be clear. It's not just spending. It's not just bad investments. It's not just gambling or cars or houses. The real killer is love without boundaries. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, establish rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.